2008 Dodge Ram 1500. This customer's got multiple issues. She brought it in the other day. She's real particular about this truck, but the rack and pinion was leaking, so we're going to replace the rack and pinion. It was leaking internally, and it's also got a rear main seal that's leaking. We're going to have to pull the transmission back out of it, replace the rear main seal, clean all that up. While we were taking it apart to look at the rack and pinion and finish this up, we noticed also that her front brakes and rear brakes are almost metal to metals. We're going to go ahead and talk to her about that as well. She also, when she dropped it off this morning, said something about she had an evaporative emission system leak, showed up over the weekend. Large leak detected. I told her I'd run a smoke test on it. We'd give her some information on that.
So we start here and then we work our way through it and see where it all leads.
We've done the rear main seal. We've already done the rack and pinion. Now we're going to go ahead and do her brakes. We noticed when we pulled the wheels off of this that the brake pads were literally, I mean, paper thin. They were very close to metal to metal. Went ahead and gave her a call. She wants to go ahead and get them done at all four corners, and we're going to go ahead and take care of the brake flush at the same time. I'm going to pull this apart. We'll see what's going on here, make sure our brake hoses are good, that we're not having any issues there, that the calipers will compress, that everything is moving like it's supposed to. Feels like we're a little bit bound up. We need to find out if we're bound up in the pins or if we're literally bound up because the brakes are that thin. The thinner your brakes get, guys, the more this caliper, which can float, it can move this way. The deeper you go into your brake pads as they start to wear, this starts to put these pins way out, okay? It pushes the entire caliper this direction, guys. You can see these pins? These pins, because this caliper can float and the brake pads now are so thin, have floated this pin back about as far as it can go. Because of that, the thing is in a bind. We need to pull it apart and we're going to see what she looks like behind. We'll see what's going on behind that brake rotor there. First things first, we got to get this, pull this caliper off. You can get a look at those brake pads. You'll see how thin they are. We'll go ahead and pull. These are actually your caliper bolts to the guide pin. You have two sets of bolts you're going to have to pull in order to do this. These are located here at the guide pins. They're going to be your smaller bolts, guys, okay? These are typically 12, 13 millimeter, sometimes 14, but they're small, typically 8, 10 millimeter bolts. This caliper off of here real quick. Pry this ahead a little bit, give us a little bit of leeway to get this caliper to walk off of here real fast. That thing is definitely in a bind. Get that. Oh, come on. Yeah, this one's been extended to the point that we're going to have to attempt to compress this caliper a little bit to get these to come off. It's literally, oh my, it's stuck, stuck, yeah.
Which is twice as bad.
Yeah, it's not good. Stuck is definitely worse than just stuck. All right. There we go. She's starting to come. All right. You do not want the weight of the caliper, guys. These things don't weigh a lot, but they weigh enough that you don't want them just sitting there pulling on that hose. If it's just sitting there, you do not want to just leave them hanging. It can damage the inside of that brake hose. Yeah, if you take a look, you can see how thin these brake pads are. Front end, you know, you can look at that. Those brake pads are gone. This is your backing plate, guys. Little sliver there. That's what's left of the brake pads themselves. These were done. That's not good. I'm gonna save these for the customer. Our new ones should come with hardware. These caliper bridge bolts, these are gonna be the bigger ones. We were talking about smaller and a larger. These are gonna be a bigger one. These ones here, guys, are gonna be tight, or should be. That was not very tight. Normally, you really gotta put some effort into getting these off. They are normally torqued to an inordinate amount of pressure. A lot of times these are 180, 200 foot-pounds of torque on these bolts, guys, and you'll see why here in a second. Because they're very large, heavy threaded bolts. Very, very important that these are put on with Loctite as per the manufacturer specification and torqued to specification. Very important. This guy comes loose, you can be in a really bad way. You can see he's been off at some point. This is an 08, but the shop that did the brakes before us did not apply new Loctite. This yellow, this was the original factory Loctite. I don't see evidence of any red Loctite, which should be what's on these. Yeah, these definitely, guys, should not come out this easy at all. They really shouldn't. These should never be able to be taken out by hand. The Loctite should keep this tight all the way out. Here's the caliper bridge. Now we get to check to see if the pins are hung up or if it was just hung up because of the extension of the brake caliper. All right, they're moving. We're gonna clean this up. We'll get these cleaned up, all lubed up. We'll pull these pins out, take a look at the bores, make sure they're okay, and then go ahead, we'll lube these back up. We can put it all back together when we start to go the other direction. Now, take a look at the inside of that brake rotor, guys. You see all this? Look at it. You see it? So, you see the rust? You can see the dust. Literally, all of that gathering up down here. Every bit of that, guys. Corrosion. That corrosion between the face of this brake rotor and this here, you can actually feel it. Every one of those is a potential issue that when you torque this situation down, when you put your wheel on and you torque everything down, this needs to be a perfectly flat, level surface. When you put that rotor on there, you torque it down, you're forcing everything into spec. That little bit of rust, see that? And the difference between here and there can actually cause surface runout. That brake rotor will bolt up square, but because it's not truly square, you're starting with a brake rotor that already has some runout, guys. Runout is lateral movement. When you're rolling down the road and this is spinning, if you bolt this up and it's not flush and square, the rotor can actually walk side to side just a little bit. Now, there's a specification for runout, and runout is within tolerance. You'll never notice it because, like we said, that caliper floats. It allows to take some of that up. When you don't clean these up, put the brake rotors on there, this becomes a situation where the runout exceeds manufacturer specification. That's when you start to feel the shaking in your steering wheel when you hit the brakes, especially coming off the highway. You're going a little bit faster. If it's something in the rear, you're getting the same kind of situation. You get a little bit of a lurching. Feels like it's kind of, as you start to slow down, you're coming to a stop, you get that kind of feel like you're on a horse. If it's in the front, you're going to get a shake of the steering wheel. You're going to get, if it's truly extreme, it's not just going to be a minor shaking of the steering wheel. It can actually be a walk, guys. The steering wheel will literally walk. If you have one side that's worse than the other, what will happen is the vehicle will dive to that side. So you have brakes operating as designed on the left-hand side, but we have a major runout situation on the right-hand side. We go to apply the brakes. because of the run out, one side is actually going to apply just a hair quicker than the other side. Because of that, you'll get a slight dive to that side as soon as you apply the brakes. What we're gonna do, we need to get set up. We'll get the cleaner. We're gonna go ahead and clean all this off, and then we'll wash her down, wipe her down. But we gotta get a brush. We gotta clean all this up to the best of our ability. Start with a good clean surface. So we gotta clean up this caliper bridge, guys. And what you wanna do, these pins, like I said, this is the sliding component. You can look at what we have in there, guys. Rust. Look at this. Look at that. That's rust, guys. Look at that. Okay. All right. It's not going to be long before that will bind up. A lot of people, man, they forget all about this. They're just going to pull this off, leave these alone, swap out those brake rotors, man. They're not going to clean up that hub. They're just going to throw it all back together. Do these move? Yeah, we're great. Send it. You can see, guys, that ain't lubricant that's in there. That's powdered rust. I like to keep these where they came out. Same thing here. You can see it. There isn't a stitch of lubricant on that, guys, at all. You see that? Look at that. Nothing. That's just rust. So a couple things. We know about these guys, right? We got to pull these out. We're also going to clean up this area where the pads ride. People sometimes worry about this. Most of the time they do not. The only right way to do this job, guys, is to worry about this. You cannot just put lubricant on top of rust, on top of other dirt. All you're doing then is trapping the dirt in your lubricant. You basically have made an abrasive paste. Not good for parts, guys. Not good for the operation of parts at all. We want to be thorough. We want to clean this up. And we're going to get this really good. I use a fine steel bristle brush or brass, you know. Either or works. You can even use a toothbrush, guys. I mean, honestly, you could even use a toothbrush if you need to. Just make sure it's clean. You don't want to be tracking debris into your lubricant. Just like we did with the hubs, we're gonna get a bore brush, guys. We're gonna get in here. Want to clean this out. Look at that. I'm gonna get, and we go both directions. I want to make sure that that's good and clean inside of there. Same kind of thing. We're not bringing contaminants. We don't want contaminants trapped inside this bore. Want those clean. There we go. Nice and smooth. Awesome. Your rubber seals, as long as they fit tight and they were good, you can leave your rubber seals, these guys, alone. But what you're going to want to do, pull them off, because you can look at this. This is all the old lubricant. And look what it's turned into. It's not good. All right. You can reuse the rubbers if you need to. You can buy new ones. They come in a hardware kit, but you don't oftentimes have to do that. If you want to do it, great, but you don't have to. Make sure I don't see any rust, any pitting, anything that's going to cause them to get hung up. And then we're going to run them over the wire wheel just to clean them up a little bit, make sure that there's nothing going on. Don't ever use a grinder, guys. Wire wheel on your grinder is okay, but do not ever use the grinder wheel. If you change the shape of this, you can see the one we just cleaned up has a couple flats. Okay, there's a flat there, there's a flat here, there's gonna be another flat. This is actually shaped more like a rounded triangle than completely round. Reason for that is so that transfer the lubricant, guys, so it can move. If it was a solid, hard fit in here and had no room around it for the lubricant, as it tried to go in and out and float, there was no bypass, these would get stuck. And they would actually, the grease would push back out against it. So these little flats, guys, this is a bypass to allow this to move and float in the bore. You need that. So if you take this to a grinder and you change that shape, then will you not have the float, but you're gonna have walk, guys. It's gonna move up and down, which will cause it to bind. You can clean these off with a Brillo. You can clean them off by hand if you want, but you know, ultimately you want them good and clean, but you do not want to change the shape of them. You're good and clean. Just go ahead and give them a wipe down. You can see, no more lubricant. She's good and clean. We can see our squares. We're good there, okay? You can go back, like I said, as long as your rubbers aren't broke, they're still pliable. You can reuse your rubbers. That's not a problem. You want to go ahead and twist, and she'll pop back on here. Now, lubricant. Brake parts lubricant, guys. Ceramic's what we use, high temp. It's purple. It works incredibly well. It's water resistant. How good this seal is, there will be the ability for moisture to get into these bores. You need a lubricant that is going to slough that off. It cannot hold water. So make sure you're using the correct brake lubricant. Question, how much, right? These don't need a lot, guys. Do not fill that hole up. They need a light lubricant, just enough to carry lube into the hole. You don't need a lot. Kind of spin them in. You want to spin them in, work that lubricant around, back and forth, okay? And when you get to the end, we're going to go ahead and push and twist, and you'll see that we popped on the other side. Now we should be able to move this freely, no issues, and she should spin. I'm going to get this rubber put on over here. We'll get this one lubed up, and then one more place we have to put some lubricant. Yeah, you don't got to go crazy, guys. Don't fill this hole up. It will cause you problems. Spin that guy in. It's just going to work her back and forth. Go try and get lubricant down all the way into the hole. Give her a good spin. We're going to walk her in. And I'm going to make sure she moves. She's good. Good. Now, the area where the hardware rides. Took the brush to that. We cleaned all that up. Okay. We're not bringing a bunch of debris and dust along with us. We're just going to put a very light coating inside of that. Okay. Now, this is not where your brake pads ride. It is where the pad hardware rides. It's not where the brake pads ride on most calipers. There is a thin piece of metal between this and the brake pad itself called the hardware, or, you know, pad clips, basically. But what you noticed, how much rust and debris there was trapped in here when we took this whole thing apart. The reason for that is, like I was talking about these, the pads, the hardware clips, ride in these grooves. That's in the moisture, guys. You drive through a mud puddle, there's moisture there. It rains, there's moisture there. You run through the car wash, you wash your wheels, there's moisture there. So what you want is a thin layer of this grease, very thin, no noticeable grease, just rub it in. That's basically going to help keep any kind of rust. You're trying to inhibit rust, guys. It's going to show up, but what you're trying to do is lubricate that area between the hardware and the actual brake caliper bridge itself. Any place where we can trap any kind of corrosion, rust, particles, dirt, stuff like that, any place we can trap that in a place it's not supposed to be is a potential for noise, it's a potential for binding. It's also a potential for a problem where the brakes are just not quite as efficient as they should. When you unpackage a new rotor, you're going to see there's going to be some chemical on this. It's actually for storage purposes so that we don't develop any kind of corrosion, rust, any of that stuff. Most of your brake rotors nowadays are actually a mix anyway, a hybrid mix of steel, aluminum. So they really don't rust a whole lot, but to keep them from rusting in the package, you can see we've got this chemical all over them. Now, surprisingly, it's kind of crazy, brake clean is not the best thing to clean those off. Brake clean doesn't do a whole lot against that chemical. We're going to make your wives a little bit upset, but ultimately I'm going to show you a trick. So, one of the best ways to clean these things, guys, is good old Dawn dish liquid. Rag. You just want to take a little bit of water, get you all soaked up, and then you really just want to wipe these down with Dawn and a rag, rinse them off in the sink. That's going to get all of that, any metal debris from the machining, any of that stuff you do not want embedded in your pads. Wife's not going to be happy about the kitchen sink. Be careful, like this one is ceramic. We don't want to break it. But you want to soak these things up real good. Wipe them down. Like I said, what this is gonna do, any of the machining debris or anything from the process, before they put these in the package, you're gonna wipe all that off and clean off that chemical so it doesn't get embedded in the brake pad. Pretty simple. You don't need any particular special chemicals. Like I said, you just take a rag, wipe them down real good, and then you want to make sure you dry them off. Wipe her down again one more time. We'll get a dry rag. We're going to wipe all this off. But that's going to take care of that storage chemical and make sure that we're good. We'll make sure we definitely wipe inside the hub. Outside, not quite as important, but inside here against this hub, we definitely don't want any kind of moisture in here. Wipe it off. She's clean. We have good clean hub surface. We'll go ahead and set this guy up here. And we're good. Keep this from wandering. You see it's at an angle. We're going to go ahead and throw lug nut back on there. And what I may have to do is probably put a spacer in there. This is actually a stud puller. We're going to go ahead and put this, we're going to use a stud puller as a spacer. That way we can just keep that rotor flat. You can use anything you've got, guys, as a spacer, because you're not putting it on tight. Just hand tight. Just keeps it from being able to walk around. It's clean, lubed up, everything's good. Now, remember we said the previous shop did not Loctite these and did not torque them down. Just like we did with our slide pins, we got to get all of this old Loctite off. I'm going to run these over to the wire wheel. I'm going to clean these all up, and then we'll be back here in a few minutes. Like we talked about, we clean these off. These were supposed to be Loctited with red. We're going to make sure that these have got a good coating here. Make sure that we're good. Threads are all clean. We'll go ahead and put the caliper bridge back on. And then we can torque it to spec like it was supposed to be, and we don't have to worry about it coming off. So when this is done correctly and you clean your threads, guys, you can run these in pretty much by hand, which is really nice. That's the way it ought to go. Guys, you should be able to run these bolts all the way in by hand. Threads are clean, your holes are clean in your bridge, okay? You've got fresh Loctite. You can run this in all the way by hand. We're gonna go ahead and torque it down. The caliper bridge torque specs are 176 Newton meters. We're set, 176 Newton meters. We'll go ahead and torque this caliper bridge down. You can see, guys, this is a big torque wrench, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on it. These bolts are designed to be tight. Very important that you make sure that they are tight. If you don't have access to a torque wrench, I would suggest that you rent one from your local parts house. It's the right way to do things, guys. Rent them, borrow one. They're not that expensive, but really it's the right way to do it. If you over torque these, you take a chance of breaking them. If you under torque them, you take a chance that they walk out, and nothing is scarier than having your brakes quit when you hit the pedal. I'm gonna wipe all this down, make sure we don't have any chemicals or anything else on this. Make sure our rotors are good and clean. Any issues? I'm gonna collapse this caliper, and then we will start assembling the brakes. Brake caliper compression tool. There are multiple ways to do this. Most of the time, I will typically collapse these before I ever pull them out of the vehicle. Now, I did not do that today because we're basically showing you guys how to do this. But most of the time, I will pull these and collapse them before we ever take them out. It's basically going to take one of the old brake pads. We'll shove this guy in there. Yeah, this is a dual piston caliper. What we're going to have to do is press one side, and then we'll move this tool over and press the other side. Now they make tools, guys, that are designed specifically for pressing both sides at the same time. If you have it, that is absolutely awesome. That'd be the preferred way to do it, okay? But most of the time, people are gonna have a tool similar to this, and you can see we're pressing one piston in. We're gonna have to move this back over to the other side. I'm gonna show you, the reason we dropped parts. I had this truck actually too high. I've been doing this for a very long time, but we had done a bunch of other work to it, and we just started the video with this truck in the position it was in as I finished up the transmission work. Not thinking, being in a hurry, which happens, but ultimately this truck was too high. So the caliper was down here because it was actually, the truck was all the way up here. Well, you don't want to work on things that way, guys. This is going to be at your level down here. All right, use the top of the brake rotor to support the caliper, guys. And you don't have to worry about your brake hose, and you keep everything in line. It makes doing this whole process of collapsing the brake calipers much easier if you've got something to kind of use as a work table. So I had just gotten in a hurry, and the caliper was in an awkward position, which caused me to start dropping stuff. Not my finest moment, but I'm okay with it. I'm human, I can admit that. Yep. Now, if for any reason, when you're starting to compress this starts to fight you and become a major issue to where you're working really, really hard to compress this, there is most likely an issue either with your brake caliper or your brake hose. All right. Now, I learned to do this a couple of different ways. There are some guys on the internet, we all do it a little bit differently. I don't typically open the bleed screw. I just don't typically do it. We're gonna end up doing a brake flush to this vehicle anyway, which our brake flush machine is force fed from the top master cylinder down. So we're gonna bring everything back out this direction. Most of the time I just do not open the bleed screw. I've seen it both ways, but this way I know I don't have a problem with the brake hose. We go ahead and collapse the brake caliper. Now, if it's moving easily like this one is, I know I don't have an issue with the caliper, and I don't have an issue with the hose. Everything is moving like it's supposed to. This is just the way I was taught. And like I said, I've seen it done both ways, guys. There is an argument out there for doing it this way. can cause issues where you put debris back up into the system. I've never had that experience. Some guys, maybe they have. But at the end of the day, it's a closed system. If it's leaking, you're going to know. So the fluid, although dirty, is not necessarily going to contain debris. I've never had an issue doing it this way. But like I said, certain other technicians, and this way, like I said, I'm testing both the caliper and the hose at the same time. If for some reason this doesn't collapse, then I can open the bleeder. Now, if I open the bleeder and then it collapses easily, we have a problem with the brake hose, right? If I open the bleeder and it still doesn't collapse, our problem is in the caliper itself, guys. These pistons, if they walk out too far, can actually cant and will get stuck. They're no longer centered in the bore. If you don't get them straight, you'll damage the caliper if it's not already damaged. A lot of these vehicles use what's called a phenolic piston. It's a ceramic piston. It does a phenomenal job at not swelling and expanding with heat, nearly like a metal component. But being phenolic, a ceramic material, it is subjected to cracking. It can actually crack, and when it does, it'll bind in the bore. That's something you need to watch out for. So if doing it this way, we're going to force all the old fluid back up and in. We're going to, when we do the brake flush, we're going to force everything back out, make sure that we have clean fluid at all four corners and that everything is working like it's supposed to work. I've never had an issue doing it this way, and it tests, like I said, to make sure that both my caliper and my brake hose are not bound up or have any kind of blockage. Both ways, I mean, in my experience, are 100% correct. Like I said, you just, if you're one that opens the brake, opens the bleeder, that's, that's just the way you do it. It's right. If you don't, I've never had any issues. One of those things where maybe I think technicians will debate this until the end of time. We all do a little differently. There's a right way and a wrong way, but I've never had any issues doing it this way. I was taught by a couple of the greatest master techs, that they've done it this way, and so it's the way I've done it, and it's the way I teach my people. But see now, guys, we were chatting, took a little bit of time, but ultimately we walked this back and forth, all right? And now both pistons have collapsed. We know we don't have a blockage in our brake hose. We just walk this right back where it needs to be. All's well and good. So what we are going to do before we put this together with the new pads, we are going to wash this off. Same situation. You don't need brake clean. You don't need a special chemical. Any kind of a sprayer. We use just a pump sprayer. Any kind of a pump sprayer with Dawn dish liquid and water, guys, will work. You're really just trying to knock off the brake dust. You don't want to carry anything from the previous brakes to the new brakes if you can avoid it. This is just a home garden sprayer, man. We use this actually in this shop for a couple of different things. We use it for testing for air conditioning leaks, and we're gonna go ahead and pull our tool out of the way. Here, this guy out of the road. Take this, bring it over here, so we're not gonna get stuff in the way. I'm basically just gonna spray this down. We just don't wanna bring any dust, dirt, debris, any of that stuff with us over to the new brakes. This doesn't have to be 100% dry. You just, you want to hang it, let it kind of drip dry, get any water out of your bores, your caliper bores, to make sure, get anything out of here. You don't want anything like that. What you're not trying to bring along with you guys is that stuff right there, okay? You want to get that, you want to wipe all that dust and debris and get it out. You don't want to bring it with you. We'll take our caliper hook, hook that guy back up. We'll give it a twist, and I'm gonna wipe this guy down. All right. All right. Let that sit for a second. Next up, brake pads. Now, most vehicles have a true inner and outer brake pad in terms of you'll have a brake pad that's going to have a squeal tab on it. This is another one of those things, guys, that you probably hear a debate. I've oftentimes, if the pads are universal, will put the squeal tab on the inside. It's just one of my quirks. It's what I do. I've seen it done both ways. Sometimes the pads are designed to actually inner and outer, and the squeal tab will go on the outside. Me, I put it on the inside. And the reason for that, if at all possible, is customers have a tendency, when they hear something they don't want to hear, to remedy the situation. They drive up to the McDonald's drive-thru, the brakes are squealing like nobody's business. Somebody comes out, Bob comes out and goes, "Hey, your brakes are squealing." Well, you can fix that. Just reach right on in there and bend that tab. And it happens, guys, all the time. So somebody will reach in there and they'll bend that tab. That squeal tab's there for a reason. It's to tell you that the brake pads are almost gone. The very next thing that Bob hears is grinding. Okay? He bent the squeal tab that was already telling him he was low on brakes. He didn't want to hear the squealing, so he bent the tab. Next thing he hears is metal on metal, grinding. Now, instead of just being able to do brake pads and hardware, he ends up having to do brake pads, hardware, and rotors, right? It's his own fault, but at the end of the day, that's why, because he could get to the squeal tab. If I am given a choice, I will put the squeal tab on the inside. It makes it as hard as possible to get that thing and bend it out of the way. It's still going to squeal, guys. You drive next to a wall, you're still going to hear it. So inside, outside, a lot of pads now actually come where they go on both sides. You'll see them on the inside and outside. These particular pads, shocking as this may be, do not have one. I'm looking, oftentimes they give you a little clip that you can put on and you'll see a space designed to put it in there. These pads, both inner and outer, are identical, okay? And they do not have a place for a squeal tab. That's the reason that this customer was almost able to run these brakes metal to metal. They were never designed with a squealer. And the aftermarkets aren't either. It's just gonna have to keep an eye on our brake pads. What we're gonna do, we want just a little bit of lubricant on these as well. Very light coating, okay? Just a little bit. We don't want a lot. You're not trying to put a ton of brake fluid or brake lubricant on these things, just enough. All right, very, very thin coating. You want to really rub this in. You want to get over here because this hardware is going to ride on these ends. Same thing over here. I'm going to swap these out. Go ahead and rub this in. Backside only, guys. I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to. You would be shocked at the amount of brake pads I have pulled off of vehicles where people have put lubricant on the friction side. Shocking, but it's true, guys. Really true. Backside only. This lubricant is designed for the backside only. Very thin coating. These particular brake pads, they actually have return springs are built in to the brake pad, designed to force these pads to come back out. So clips just slide on like so. I'm going to make sure that these slides here and here are facing the same direction. All right? When we put this pad on, it's going to ride. Remember in that area that I told you we were going to put a little bit of lubricant, right? Right in here. You're going to ride right in there. You see it just kind of slipped right in. Now, these clips, all right, you see how they're sitting against the caliper. As the brakes are applied, when they're released, as they're applied, they're released. Pulls those pads back. okay? That's what you want. You don't want those riding against your brake rotor. That's what those return springs are for. Get the other pad. We're gonna line that guy up, and then now we know which way it needs to go. We're gonna get us some clips. Same thing on the inside here. We're just gonna set her right on in, get her lined up, and we wanna make sure that they move freely as they're designed.